You know that moment, standing at the kitchen sink, arms crossed, watching the water just sit there, greasy, gray, not moving. And you reach under the cabinet for the baking soda, then the vinegar. You pour it in and that big, angry fizz erupts, and something in your gut says, good, it's working. That fizz has fooled every single one of us, me included, for years. Because what I'm about to show you is a mix that costs less than $1, uses 3 things already sitting in most pantries, and it comes from a time when folks didn't fix drains. They never let drains break in the first place, and that difference, that's everything. Now, what I just told you about that fizz probably bothered you a little. It bothered me, too. And if you're still here, you're the kind of person who'd rather know the truth than feel comfortable. That's exactly who this channel is for. Tap subscribe, not because I'm asking, but because the next time something like this crosses your path, you'll want someone who gives it to you straight instead of selling you a bottle. Let's start with what everybody knows, because everybody knows it for a reason. When a drain clogs, you need something strong enough to break through it. That's just common sense. Grease, hair, soap scum, it builds up down there, and you need a force powerful enough to dissolve it or push it through. So you buy a bottle of Drano, or you call the plumber, or, if you're the type who doesn't trust chemicals, you go the natural route. Baking soda and vinegar. Half a cup each, let it fizz, chase it with boiling water. Simple, clean, cheap. You've probably done this yourself. And honestly, it's a perfectly reasonable thing to believe. The whole world agrees with you on this one. And there's a reason the whole world agrees. Because when you pour that baking soda down the drain and hit it with vinegar, something dramatic happens. That fizz is loud, it's aggressive. It pushes up out of the drain like it's angry. It looks like a chemical reaction doing real work. And you know what? Something does improve, usually. The water drains a little faster that night. Maybe the smell goes away for a few days. You walk away from that sink thinking you just solved the problem for $1.50. That feeling, that small victory of handling it yourself, no plumber, no poison, just pantry ingredients, that's a good feeling. I'm not mocking it. I felt it plenty of times myself. Here's what makes this belief even stronger. It's not just you and me in our kitchens. It's everywhere. Every homemaking blog, every natural cleaning hacks list, every frugal living YouTube channel repeats the same advice. Baking soda and vinegar, the miracle duo. Your grandmother probably told you. Your neighbor swears by it. If you walked into any hardware store right now and told the guy at the counter your drain was slow, he'd say, try baking soda and vinegar first. When literally every source around you confirms the same approach, products on the shelf, advice from friends, videos online, it doesn't just seem true, it feels proven, settled, not even worth questioning. That's where I was, too. Right up until my kitchen drain clogged for the 3rd time in 4 months. 3rd time. Same drain, same problem, same fix. And standing there with that box of baking soda in my hand, this thought hit me for the first time. A thought so obvious, I'm almost embarrassed it took that long. If this works, why does the drain keep clogging? Not once in a while, regularly, like clockwork. I'd been doing exactly what everyone told me, and the problem kept coming back. And once that question got into my head, I couldn't get it out. I started looking at it differently. Not at the recipe, at the logic underneath. And what I found changed the way I deal with every drain in my house. Here's what that fizz actually is. Baking soda is a base. Vinegar is an acid. When you mix an acid and a base, they neutralize each other. That's not my opinion. That's middle school chemistry. The fizz, you see? That's carbon dioxide gas releasing. The stuff left behind in your pipe is mostly sodium acetate and water. That's essentially a weak salt solution. It doesn't dissolve grease. It doesn't eat through hair. It doesn't break down soap scum. That dramatic bubbling that looks like it's doing something powerful, it's the reaction canceling itself out. The slight improvement you noticed afterward, that came from the boiling water you poured in after. The hot water moved things along, not the mix. We've been giving credit to the fireworks, while the quiet hot water did the little bit of real work. Now, you might be thinking, fine, but the chemical drain cleaners actually do work. Drano clears the clog. And you're right. Products with lye or sodium hydroxide are genuinely powerful. They can dissolve organic material. I won't pretend otherwise. But here's what the label doesn't explain. That same lye is eating your pipe walls, too. Especially PVC joints, especially older metal pipes. It strips the smooth inner lining and leaves a rough, pitted surface. And what does grease stick to better? A smooth pipe or a rough one? Every time you pour that harsh chemical down, you're solving today's clog and guaranteeing next month's. You're roughing up the inside of your own plumbing so that buildup grabs hold faster and thicker than before. The worse it gets, the more product you buy. That's not a conspiracy. That's just a business model that happens to benefit from your repeat problems. So here's where the whole thing flips. I kept looking for a stronger cleaner, natural or chemical, and the answer was never about strength. It was about timing. Old communities, Amish, rural homesteaders, folks who lived 30 miles from the nearest hardware store, they didn't have a better cleaner. They had a different question entirely. They never asked, how do I unclog this drain? They asked, how do I make sure this drain never clogs? That's not a small difference in wording. That's a completely different way of running a household. They maintained. They didn't repair. Small effort regularly so that big problems never formed. And the mix they used, the one I'm going to give you, wasn't designed to fight a clog. It was designed to prevent one from ever starting. And that's the part that stung a little when I figured it out. Not that I'd been using the wrong product, but that I'd been asking the wrong question for years. The entire drain cleaning aisle, the chemicals, the natural alternatives, the YouTube tutorials, all of it answers one question. What do I pour when it's clogged? Nobody in that aisle is asking whether the clog needed to happen at all. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. The fix isn't a stronger recipe. The fix is a simple habit. A handful of cheap stuff once a week, 3 minutes, and the clog never forms. That's what the old-timers understood, not a secret ingredient, a secret timing. So let me give you the mix, and I want to be honest with you right up front. When you hear the ingredients, you might be underwhelmed. There's no rare herb, no hidden Amish powder nobody's heard of. It's 3 things: coarse salt, baking soda, and cream of tartar. That's it. You probably have 2 of them in your kitchen right now. Cream of tartar is in the baking aisle. Costs a couple dollars for a jar that'll last you most of the year. Combined, a month's worth of this mix runs you well under $1. And I know what you're thinking. Wait, baking soda? You just told me baking soda doesn't work. You're right, I did. And here's the difference. Last time, you were using baking soda as a weapon to fight an existing clog. That's not what it's doing here. Here, it's part of a quiet maintenance crew doing a small job before the big problem ever shows up. Here's what each ingredient actually does. No exaggeration, no magic claims. Coarse salt is an abrasive. When you flush it down with hot water, those rough grains scrub gently against the inside walls of the pipe as they pass through. Think of it like running a stiff brush through a garden hose. Nothing dramatic, just enough to keep the surface from getting sticky. Baking soda is a mild alkali. It doesn't dissolve grease in any powerful way, but it does something useful. It slightly loosens fresh grease films before they harden and bond to the pipe wall. It catches them while they're still soft. And cream of tartar is a mild acid, just enough to keep mineral deposits from calcifying and toughening up without being anywhere close to harsh enough to damage pipe material. None of these three is powerful alone. Together, weakly, they keep the inside of your pipe slick and smooth smooth pipes don't collect buildup. Simple as that. Now here's the routine, and I want you to notice how small it is. Once a week, pick a day, Sunday night works fine. Take about 2 or 3 tablespoons of your dry mix and pour it straight into the drain. Leave it sitting for 15 minutes. Then boil a kettle of water and pour it down slowly. Done. 3 minutes of your time, pennies of your money. You don't need gloves, you don't need ventilation. The dog can be right there in the kitchen. And one more thing. Put a simple mesh strainer over every drain in your house if you haven't already. Dollar store has them. That strainer catches hair and food bits physically before they ever enter the pipe. Between the strainer and the weekly mix, you've got a system that handles the problem from both sides. One stops the big debris, the other keeps the pipe walls clean for the small stuff. That's the whole thing. No subscription, no refills, no plumber visits. But I need to stop here and be straight with you about something, because I'd rather lose a little excitement and keep your trust. If your drain is clogged right now, today, this mix is not going to fix it. This is prevention. It is not a cure. If you've got standing water in your sink right now, you need a drain snake. A basic one from the hardware store, $5 to $8, hand crank. Physical removal. Pull the clog out, clear the pipe, then start this weekly routine so it doesn't come back. And if your clog is deep, if it keeps coming back even after snaking, if you suspect tree roots or a cracked pipe, you need a plumber. There's no dollar mix on earth that replaces a professional when the problem is structural. I'm telling you this because the internet is full of people who'll promise you miracles. I'd rather promise you something real and let it actually work. Now, you might be wondering about that word forever from the title. And I owe you an honest answer on that, too. This mix doesn't work like a one-time magic potion where you pour it once and walk away for life. Forever means something different here. It means that if you do this small thing consistently, 3 minutes, once a week, the conditions that cause clogs simply never build up. The pipe stays smooth. Grease doesn't harden. Minerals don't calcify. Hair doesn't have anything to cling to. The clog never forms. Not because you killed it, but because you never gave it a place to live. In that sense, yeah, forever. Not because the mix is powerful, because the habit is steady. That's a less exciting promise than pour once and forget, but it's a promise that actually holds up. And honestly, I think you'd rather have that. This is where I think the old-timers had something we've lost. Not a recipe, a philosophy. They maintained things. They didn't wait for the roof to leak to get up on the ladder. They didn't wait for the fence to fall before checking the posts. And they didn't wait for the drain to stink before paying attention to it. Small effort, often, so that emergencies stayed rare. Our generation got sold a different idea. Wait for the problem, then buy the product. It's faster. It feels more efficient. But you end up spending more money, more stress, and more weekends dealing with things that didn't need to become problems. The Amish communities and old rural homesteaders weren't smarter than us. They just didn't have a store on every corner selling them the luxury of neglect. So they paid attention early, and they paid less overall. That trade still works today. We just forgot it was on the table. So here's what I'd like you to do, and it's small on purpose. Tonight, just boil 1 kettle of water and pour it slowly down your kitchen drain. That's it for today. Tomorrow, pick up salt, baking soda, and cream of tartar. $3, maybe $4 total, enough to last the whole year. Next Sunday, do your first treatment. Set a reminder on your phone if you need to, or just tie it to something you already do Sunday evenings. 2 months from now, I want you to think back to how often you used to deal with slow drains. I think you'll notice something that feels almost strange. Nothing happened. No clog, no smell, no standing water. And that nothing? That quiet nothing is the whole point. It means the system is working. I'll leave you with this. We spend so much time looking for the right fix, the right product, the right hack, the right video that finally gives us the answer. But sometimes the answer isn't a fix at all. Sometimes it's just paying attention, a little bit, regularly, before things go wrong. Your grandparents knew that. Not because they were wiser in some grand way, because they didn't have the option to ignore things and buy their way out later. We have that option now, and it's cost us more than we realize. A handful of salt, a little baking soda, a pinch of cream of tartar, and 3 minutes on a Sunday night. That's not a hack. That's just care. And it turns out, care was always the cheapest thing in the house.